Hello and welcome back to episode number 8 of the United Front Football Podcast with me and myself, with me and Mr. Breezy. It started well. It's been a long weekend.
Here.
Yeah, yeah. I've often wondered what a dual personality disorder was like, and here we are. Thank you for coming back. For anyone who's listened before, and if you're new, make sure you give us a follow, subscribe, whichever thing you do on whichever platform you're listening to us on. Without much ado, we'll get straight into it. We've got a lot to talk about this week. So
and then some.
yeah, and then probably some that will follow on into another episode. But we'll start as we always do by some of the hot takes from the audience, from the listening public. So if you're not aware, every week we put a tweet out asking for your hot takes and opinions on the weekend's football, and we get to read it out and tell the world whether you're talking absolute wibble or not. We'll get straight into that. I think you've earmarked one to start off with, haven't you?
Yeah, so it's from long time listener of the pod. Keeney has come in, as he always does every week. This one's on Ollie Watkins after his hat-trick against Brighton in that very surprising 6-1 win for Villa. Mental. Ollie Watkins surely has to be in the England squad given his start to the season. However, with Southgate's continual decisions to call up off-form / non-player Maguire and Phillips, he'll probably not get the call. I just want to quickly jump on this one. Watkins has been called up before. Watkins has been in and around the squads.
Wasn't he? He was in the last squad, wasn't he? I think, or
he wasn't in the last squad, but I think he was in the one before that. I'm pretty sure. And also Maguire and Phillips aren't strikers, so I don't really see what bringing them up has to do with anything. But no, I think, to be fair, I think his first goal of the season was against Chelsea the other week, right? And now he scored a hat trick against Brighton. So obviously it's boosted his goal scoring numbers up a little bit, but obviously it's not just, you can't just judge him on goals. Obviously, I think his overall play has been really key for Villa's start to the season. So I think he's absolutely one that should be in the England squad moving forward. I think England are quite lucky to have decent options in forward areas. Like obviously Kane's the obvious one, right? But you also got Callum Wilson's having a pretty good time at Newcastle. I think Nketiah got his chance. Well, I say got his chance. I don't think he actually played in the last few international breaks. But he's had a look at Nketiah. But I think if Watkins for sure carries on this type of form, he'll be in for a shout for the next squad.
Definitely, yeah. And I think just having that, like you say, a good number of options as like a backup to Harry Kane, or even like someone to play alongside him. You've got to bear in mind that Ivan Toney's going to be coming back as well for the second half of the season, so it's going to add more depth to that striker pool. I do feel like there's a lot of similar, I don't want to say like similar kinds of players, but it's like similar level of players where there's a load of English strikers who are looking like a 15 to 20 goal a year striker, but no one who's going to put Kane under any pressure for his position. No. But it's just going to be like, it might even just be who's fit and who's in form going into the the end of the season and the Euros to see who actually goes. But I really like him. I think he offers something a little bit different to like a Callum Wilson and an Ivan Toney, who are a bit more, like your classic number 9. Like they're a bit of a physical presence. They can hold the ball up good. Like they're a bit more of a box striker. Whereas I feel like Watkins is a bit more of a, I don't want to say like a utility forward, but you could very easily play him off one of the wings. You could play him a little bit deeper. Like he's good at picking up the ball and running. His off the ball movements really good. Like he's not bad in the air, is what I was going to say. Like he's a bit of a physical presence as well. So he could be a really good option in those front lines, especially if you see like people like Marcus Rashford continuing to struggle for form, or
I was going to say very similar to Rashford, like in terms of that coming off inside off the left. Like I think he does play through the middle for Villa, but I think when Ings was there, he played off the left. A fair amount and was pretty good at it. So
yeah, I think that's the thing with it. Like I say, he can just be like a versatile forward option. So the more the merrier. There's tons of those kind of players for England, I think. But he's if he can keep his form up and get another 15-20 goals this year, definitely I'd be taking him to the Euros.
I think that's the thing. I think we obviously we did the whole England chat a few episodes ago, and obviously the whole argument of picking players on form, which I've never like over recent years, probably since Southgate's been in charge. Actually, my stance on picking players solely based on form has changed. But I do think that for strikers, I think that's the one position where I do think form should be taken into account, because obviously
you've got to be confident, right?
Absolutely. Like, I feel like I think we've kind of seen it, right? Like, even though Maguire barely plays for United, he can still come into the England side and put in good performances. Same with someone like Calvin Phillips, for example. Like, defensive players, I think if they're playing within the same unit, it's usually okay. You can get away with it. But like I say, for strikers, they need to have that confidence. Otherwise, it's they're sort of done before they've even started, right? So I think, like I say, if he carries on his form, he's definitely going to be pushing for a spot in that squad, not just for the upcoming international break, but obviously for the Euros in the summer as well.
Yeah, and I think like with injuries as well, depends how well Tony comes back. Like if he hits the ground running and finds his form again. Obviously, Wilson's been in and around the England squad as well. Notoriously injury prone, like he could pick up a knock or like a bit of an injury before the end of the season. So yeah, like he's consistent. Like the best ability is availability, right? And he seems to be always available for Villa. And yeah, he's got his mojo a little bit. Like yeah, he could be a good one. Another one from Keeney, actually, directed to yourself, saying Souček also seems to be playing differently from what I've seen. Is this due to a slightly different role due to Rice leaving? Was Rice the problem with Souček's play? And I'll roll this in from HC16 as well. JWP is quietly one of the signings of the window. Adds so much to West Ham, set pieces, technical ability in the final third. Just the same that West Ham don't have a competent striker, otherwise they could win the Europa League. So obviously that's kind of like going over stuff we talked about in the past, like the midfield rebuild from Rice. I think to say that Declan Rice is a problem for midfield is mental because he's great, but it may mean that like he can free other players up to do other things, or kind of people have more set roles in that midfield. Maybe the sum of the parts of this midfield is slightly better as a whole because of everyone's got these clearly defined roles. I don't like from what I've seen briefly. Obviously, you watch them every home game in the flesh, like, and you watch more of West Ham than I do. That's the impression that I'm getting from watching what I do. Am I right with that, or is it kind of a bit more to it?
Yeah, I think that is it. I think that's the key word sort of we seem to sort of use when talking about West Ham's midfield this year without Rice is balance. And I think when Rice when he first broke into the team, when Souček first joined, so sort of when Moyes came back and you had that sort of double pivot of Rice and Souček with sometimes it'd be Noble, it'd be like Fornals or someone sitting ahead of them, like that balance was really, really good. But over the years, Rice's role changed from an out and out sitting, like sort of holding midfielder to a more box to box, which is predominantly what Souček's role was when he first joined the club. And I think as Rice's role in the team evolved, Souček became more of a sitting midfielder. And I think there's always been a bit of a misconception, mainly amongst West Ham fans, that like it was Rice's decision to become more of an 8 and get forward more, like as if Moyes didn't tell him to start doing that.
Yeah, because he's the manager, obviously, right? he decides the roles of the players.
Exactly. I've seen so much of it where it's like, oh, Souček only suffered because Rice had to decide to start going forward. It's like, well, that's not how football works, but okay. So I think it's one of them. Like, I think Rice leaving ultimately has freed Souček up to do the stuff that he was good at previously when he first joined the club. But I still maintain that if Rice was still here and we'd been Souček off for a Ward-Prowse or an Alvarez, we'd probably be seeing very similar results. But there's also that thing we've spoken about before. We mentioned Kane leaving Spurs, where it's like you can be a team with one really good player, but if that player leaves, you can still build like a better all-round team, if that makes sense. I do think where West Ham struggled last year, and it isn't because of this, but I think because we were struggling, naturally we looked at Declan Rice as like, well, you're our best player. We need you to sort of get us out of this, which he certainly did his best like pretty much nearly every game. But I think now that we've got multiple players we can call upon now, if we do find ourselves in sort of sticky patches, like Bowen's had a great start to the season. We've mentioned like Ward-Prowse, like HC says about Ward-Prowse, funny enough, being like quietly one of the sign of the seasons. I agree. He's been definitely, for the price we paid for him, he should be considered as one of the signs of the season. I wouldn't necessarily say quietly though. Because I feel like everyone sort of, it's quite obvious the impacts Ward-Prowse has had just because of his numbers. Whereas I actually feel like the one who maybe goes under the radar and will go under the radar just because of the role he plays is probably Alvarez. Yeah. Like he's an absolute animal, and every game he's played so far this season, I think West Ham fans love him already. He's just getting on to be like a cliche, a proper West Ham. Do you know what I mean? Like, like proper West Ham type of player. So yeah, like I think it's like we said about before. I think we've spent the money really, really well, replaced Rice brilliantly. And the striker thing, Antonio was all right at the weekend against Sheffield United. I think, he was better than he was against Liverpool, which wasn't difficult. But it does. It's just kind of felt like that for the whole time Moyes has been here. That, oh man, if we can just get that striker, then who knows where we'll end up. But man, good strikers are so difficult to come by. I feel like there's like probably 5-6 teams in the Premier League who probably have that situation of like, oh, we've got a really good sort of base. We just need someone who can put the ball in the back and out on a regular basis. But like 20 goal a season strikers just aren't as available as they maybe once were.
Yeah, and there's a lot of teams, in that middle of the pack, and I'm kind of like, even though West Ham have had a great start to the season, I'm kind of like lumping you in that middle of the pack Premier League kind of thing. There's a load of teams that are in the same boat. Like, they've got a usable striker, but it's not a great striker, because obviously if you've got a 20-goal-a-year striker, you're probably challenging for the European places, right? Like, more consistently. I wonder whether this, like, in the summer is going to be, because it looks like you've like solidified your defense. You got some nice depth there. You got some good midfield. You got some like flair players. You got a really good kind of, I don't want to say like really deep team, but there's a few options in all the positions. Maybe this summer is the one where they go, right, finally, let's go and get ourselves a Solanke or just one of these players from like a mid-table side and a 1 year. That that kind of
guy.
Yeah, he's the man. Yeah, but one of those players who is like overperforming in a team that's not really going to be pushing for the European spots, that could get you an extra 15 goals a year and then push you onto the next level and do it that way. But yeah, like as we spoke about in the past, the 1 year I really like the look of. I think he'd be a great pickup. I could even see Spurs going in for him though, like because Richarlison isn't really cutting it, and I think having a big focal mobile like striker, big focal point mobile striker for Spurs, I think Andrew'd love that, because he's trying to use Richarlison that way, and he's just he presses really hard, he runs all day, he's just not got the quality. He's a bit of a Neil Maupay for me. Like, it's like the guy tries really hard, but he looks like he's trying too hard, and he just can't get he just can't score. So
yeah, I will say just before we move away from this, I did want to quickly say, like, with HC's point about if we had a competent striker, we'd push in European places. I think Newcastle and Villa are our next two Premier League games, and I think those two games, how they go, will be a real sort of, it will give us a much better idea of where West Ham are going to be coming in the season. But as much as I do kind of agree with what he says about the striker's point, I do think we've got goals in other areas of the team, most in particular Jared Bowen, who has had an unbelievably good start to the season. Like, took his goal brilliantly against Sheffield United at the weekend, and we've still yet to see Mo Kuda sort of nail down a starting spot. And I think, and so, if you'd asked me a week ago, I'd be saying Souček's spot is probably the one up for grabs. But the way he's playing right now in that midfield, he's kind of undroppable. And if he's playing a bit further forward, he'll chip in with goals as well. And actually, I would love to see where a West Ham side that lines up with like Kudus and Bowen both starting, and they just sort of rotate between centre, like that sort of striker position and that right midfield position just throughout the game. Because I think that will cause teams a lot of havoc, like especially once Kudus gets going and gets fully adapted. Like, obviously, a lot of people probably would have seen the game of the weekend. But there was a moment where he picked the ball up, just sort of as it nearly went for a throw in, and just turned to Lionel Messi for a few minutes. It was great. Just picked the ball on the halfway line and just ran past like 7 players. I was like, this is brilliant. He's going to be great. So I think he could be the guy if he does break into the first team and get a run. But time will tell, I suppose. But thankfully, we've got the Europa League to bed him in for that. So hopefully he can get some confidence from that.
Yeah, like get used to the team, and like you say, with Bowen backfiring again, like looking like he did a couple of years ago, Souček just being a nuisance. Like it's one thing not having a striker. You can carry it. Well, not having a striker, not having a prolific striker.
Yeah,
when everyone else is chipping in. If you've got a load of players getting 10 goals a season, you're fine. I mean, look at City; they did it for the longest time. They didn't have like a prolific striker after Aguero for a while. Until they got Haaland, and it was just everyone was just chipping in. Like, everyone's getting 10, 15 goals a year. Like, maybe you won't get that many, but if everyone's at least chipping in, then they'll be all right.
Absolutely. Well, funny you mentioned City. The next point is about Man City. Comes in from George. This is a wild one. Man City won't win a trophy this season. The lack of squad depth isn't mentioned enough. When you're bringing in Oscar Bob on at halftime compared to Mahrez or Silva last year, it should be very concerning. Bit of a stretch, I feel like, because they've lost the game. I get it, really happens. But we were talking about City squad depth for like a few weeks ago, and how well they've replaced the likes of Mahrez and other players who've left. And it's a bit of an overreaction, I think.
Yeah, maybe. Like, it's the Premier League; anyone can lose a game, and I kind of get where he's coming from. Like the the weight of the names aren't there on the bench, right, for Man City anymore. You do need to bear in mind, though, that like for big portions of the season, they've been missing Grealish for a while. Bernardo Silva's out. They're missing De Bruyne until the new year, I think. John Stones is out injured now as well. So they're missing key players, like big players there.
Rodri's suspended as well for that game.
Exactly, yeah. And they have brought in depth, like, let's not pretend like Mateo Kovacic hasn't been one of the better midfielders in the Premier League for the past few years. Nunez, who they signed obviously from Wolves, is really a really effective player, like a ball carrying player. But I do kind of agree, like, to lose some of those forward players and be having Oscar Bob as an option, like you got Doku, as good as he's looked, is kind of like a bit of a hit and hope with him because he's very young, right? But yeah, like, I mean, when you're carrying that many injuries and like they tend to have like not the biggest squad anyway, because everyone's on just insane wages, so they can only have like 20 players. or else, well, they could just add some more charges to the 115 charges.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah. mark that on your bingo card. I think that the big thing that they seem to recruit in, again, like it just seems like every year they go out and buy a great defender. And obviously they've done that again this year, so maybe they'll see like one or two players come through from the youth academy to kind of flesh it out a little bit. I did feel it weird that they let his name's completely escaped me. They let him just sign
Cole Palmer.
Cole Palmer. It kind of surprised me that they let him go, like because he'd have been great for having that. Like like someone who's come through the academy, someone like, and he would be getting game time now, ironically. But it sounded like he wanted the move. So fair enough with that. Like I say, they brought Doku in. He's looked really good when Jack Grealish is back full fitness and full flying. He's going to be great. Julian Alvarez, as we were saying about the other week, looks amazing. Like he's just getting better. Like it feels like he's getting better every week. And that free kick was incredible.
Yeah, it's unreal.
He's just got that kind of magic touch, I feel, with him, and he could be like a really, really important player, and maybe kind of lessen the blow of some of these older players leaving. Like, Kevin De Bruyne is like in his like 32, 33 now. Like, you're gonna have to think about replacing him eventually, and like just relieving that pressure of finding the next person who's going to be the X factor. He could really help them with that. As far as not winning anything, they're still the team to beat in pretty much every competition. I know like the squad depth thing could be held against them in like the League Cup, obviously. Like they're already out of that. So they can't do the quadruple this year, so there's that at least. But when it comes to like the FA Cup, obviously the League and the Champions League, like they're still going to be the team to beat. And unless they have like a catastrophic injury crisis, like circa Liverpool 3 or 4 years ago, I don't see them not being at the top of every tournament they're in. They're going to be getting very deep, if not to the finals of everything.
Yeah, I don't think. I think. I know the table's looking a bit better now. I still, like you say, I still think they seem to be for the league. I never really had them down as winning the Champions League, but like just because it's so insanely difficult, unless you're Real Madrid to retain it, right? And also, like I don't know. I just feel like I feel they'll get far in the Champions League, but I just don't see them winning it again. I feel like chasing it for that long, finally doing it, and then trying to find the motivation to do it again the following year isn't always the easiest thing. It's easy if you're Real Madrid because that's the competition that Real Madrid win. Like, it's just what they do. Whereas, like City, I think they're going to have a bit of a... Again, they'll get to like the semi-finals and get knocked out by like Bayern or Real or something. But yeah, to say they're not going to win anything, I think is a stretch. And it would be I'd be mental if it happened. I'd be all for it because it is quite boring watching City win everything. But I just...
Oh yeah,
I can't see it myself.
If it means that City aren't going to win it, but that just means that like Liverpool or Arsenal are going to win stuff, and that'll be even worse because they've actually got fans and like they're insufferable.
No, but remember, there's that big FA conspiracy against Liverpool. So
and now they're asking for the recordings from the weekend so that they can do what get a replay. Like I don't know.
To be, we'll sure we'll get into all of that because Christ.
I'll breathe. Right. Well, we've had speaking of VAR, Cameron has messaged in saying VAR and the standard of referees using it has never been higher. I think that he might be being quite ironic with that statement.
Tongue firmly in cheek, I think, Cameron.
But yeah, like as you say, actually, we will come on to the VAR stuff in a little bit. But yeah, like safe to say, it just gets worse. It's like it's hilariously bad, and they just somehow keep managing to make it worse.
It feels very much like this weekend in particular. Like, so we've not really. Again, we will go in. I'm sure people are tuning in thinking like, "Oh, talk about it." Like, we will talk about it, but like, I feel like we've kind of we said, didn't we? Like, oh, we can't just keep talking about VAR every week because it's gonna get boring. I feel like kind of can't really ignore it this week because it's been quite a colossal moment, really, isn't it? So
it could be, it could be the straw that breaks the camel's back for a lot of it. But anyway, we'll go on to another one then. Like Andrew, Newcastle fan himself, has come in with Anthony Gordon is class. Improved so much over the past year. In so many areas of his game. He's now one of Newcastle's most important players. Surely should be in contention for the England call-up too. Now, as someone who was previously, and I know you have as well, like said, I don't really see what the crack is with Gordon. Kind of quick, kind of runs around a lot. Like I don't really see, what he brings to a team like to improve him. Certainly didn't think he was worth the money that Newcastle spent on him.
No.
More than happy to like hold my hands up and say, yeah, I was wrong. Like they obviously saw something. They obviously saw this in him and have like given him the platform to do it. As regards the England squad, kind of see what I was saying earlier, like players like, Rashford and even Foden, like if they're not finding form, then yeah, he should definitely be in the discussion for it. It's worth noting that he's still, I think, young enough to play for the under-21s, and he was part of the under-21s that just won.
He was
in the last tournament. He was a golden.
Did he play in a tournament?
Yeah,
like,
it was either golden boot or player of the tournament. Yeah, he had a great tournament. And yeah, I can only say, yeah, I was well wrong because every time I watch him now in a Newcastle shirt, he is the guy. He's doing what ASM was doing. He is that kind of, he's their flair winger who commits defenders and takes people on, but he's got a better end product.
Yeah,
like he's scoring goals, he's getting assists, like he's committing defenders, he's winning fouls, but he's doing it and being more effective at it. And you can definitely see why they saw him and thought he's moldable. Like,
yeah,
we can build him into what we need him to be. So yeah, fair. Like I say, hold my hands up. I was well wrong. Hopefully he keeps on the same trajectory because like we've seen a lot of young players especially have like a really good breakout couple of months and look great for a little while, and then it all kind of like settles down or like they have an injury or something. So hopefully nothing like that happens and he just carries on doing what he's doing, because obviously Newcastle are only going to keep getting better and they're only going to get more investment. So like if he can keep his spot and stay as a focal point of that team, then all the better for him. Like,
yeah, he's suspended for the Newcastle's game at West Ham next weekend, so I'm over the moon.
Yeah, terrific.
But yeah, I agree. Like, so I've never been on the Anthony Gordon hype train. Like, so we spoke about this before, and he's properly maybe do a 180 on him this season. He's been, I think, arguably Newcastle's best player this season.
Yeah.
Like from every game that I've watched of theirs, he has always been the standout, and I think it's a testament to, I was saying not only to him, but I think it's also another testament to Eddie Howe, just in terms of his ability to just improve players in a relatively short amount of time. Like, you think of when he first came in, I think Howe actually managed him quite well from the moment he signed. Like, he wasn't starting every single week. He was sort of being used here and there in the squad, and just sort of, I'm guessing, to kind of remove that pressure of the price tag that Newcastle paid for him.
Yeah.
And obviously there was a bit of hype around him because there was links with Chelsea in the summer, and like, so there was obviously a lot of eyeballs and stuff, but he's clearly got his head down, and he's he's worked with Eddie Howe over the summer, and he's just, like I say, Howe's been able to get the best out of him. I think for the England thing, I fully agree. I think he does deserve, or he's playing in a way that would deserve a call up. I think the one thing that might go against him is that where he plays on the left is England are pretty well stacked in that area. Like, you think Rashford, Grealish, Foden, like Southgate has played Foden out there. Eze's been in the last few squads. He can play out on the lefts as well as in the middle. So I think that's the one thing. But obviously, like I say, he's been doing such a good job for the under-21s. There's no way he's not on Southgate's radar. Like, the way obviously the England South's been on the Southgate, like, he'll be keeping on the under-21s and what they're doing at club level, and Gordon will absolutely be on his radar. So he's not involved in the next squad, like Newcastle fans don't go into absolute meltdown over it. Like I'm sure he will get a call up between now and the Euros in the summer. So if he carries on this form, obviously.
He'll be damned if he doesn't, damned if he doesn't, because like there's going to be good players missing out in a tournament.
Yeah.
It'll always be a case of like if he doesn't go, and for example Rashford goes or whoever it is, like even like Ollie Watkins goes, and they either don't get the game time or don't turn up. There'll always be that. Well, you should have taken X, Y, Z. Like you should have taken all of these players. So like there's a limited amount of spaces in the squad. But yeah, no, in terms of performances, I'm enjoying watching him play. Which is something that I could never say I did when he was in an Everton shirt. So,
no, fair play. Well done, Anthony Gordon.
Yeah.
Well done.
Bravo,
bravo to you. All right, sorry to have to do this, Dan. We've got a comment in here from Red496, who is a Crystal Palace fan. So I'm guessing this is going to lead us into the United Palace game of the weekend. Is it obviously, like I said, Red 4 Crystal Palace fan, just wants about Roy Hodgson. With the budget he's working with and the lack of signings and immediate need of replacements, Roy Hodgson is working wonders with Palace, and it really should be talked about more. I say as a completely unbiased Palace supporter. I can't really add much more to that. I think Hodgson's surprised everyone since coming back to Palace, more in the sense of like, not that he kept them up, because I think everyone expected that anyway. That's a lie. I thought I'd go down when he first came back, so I thought it was just a bizarre appointment.
Yep.
But it's not like he went in there and made them difficult to beat. They were playing really, really good attacking football and scoring goals for fun.
Yeah.
And this season he seems to have found a decent blend of like, we're difficult to break down, well organized, but we will, we can go out there and knock the ball around a bit in games. And obviously that wasn't the case in both games at Old Trafford, obviously with the League Cup and the weekend's one. But to say that getting that performance after, because I watched a fair bit of the League Cup tie, and I thought Palace were just completely toothless and just there for the taking, really. As well as I thought United played, I thought Palace were awful.
Yeah.
But to get that reaction out, for the follow up game in the league, and to deliver, get a clean sheet and get a 1-0 win, so I think Roy's doing great. And it's like Red 4 says, it's not they've gone out and found like an out and out replacement for Zaha. Like they brought in Franco. I don't think he's played yet. I think he might be injured. Like obviously Elise's been injured. Still arguably looking for a proper a decent number 9. Like Edouard's all right, Mateta's all right, but it's not like they were blessed with loads of signings in the summer. So I think he's doing a fantastic job, and it'll be interesting to see who they go for. I'm guessing at the end of the season, once Hodgson, I guess, retires if he ever wants to.
Yeah, but I guess he just sticks around there as long as he wants, doesn't he? Really?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and I must say the same. Like when they hired Hodgson, I went, well, that's it then. Because I thought Palace were down. It just seemed like an uninspired appointment rather than anything. But I very quickly realised, no, actually, he's shown that he doesn't only have one way of playing. Like that, we all know that he can be a pragmatic manager and set up on the back foot, but he's shown that given the talent, he will allow them to flourish. And obviously, last year when you had Elise, Eze, and Zaha all in the front line, like if you can get those guys on the pitch all at the same time, you've kind of just got to let them go.
Yeah,
you're almost forced into playing that way a little bit, or at least allowing them a little bit of freedom to express themselves. And he allowed it, and they scored goals, and and they were pretty fun to watch last year. Like you say, a bit more kind of pragmatic this year, but I think obviously losing the output of a Zaha and missing Elise so much of the year, like it's gonna force you to do that anyway. But yeah, it was a really good. To be fair, I don't even want to say it was a really good performance from Palace. It was a solid performance. I thought they defended really, really well. I thought Anderson and Gay were just you just couldn't get anything past them. Obviously, it was a great finish from Anderson for the goal. Absolute driller into the top of into the roof of the net.
Probably pro clubs finish, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was great. But yeah, I tweeted this out actually as towards the end of the game. It's like Palace haven't even had to try that hard to stop United creating, because it just looked, after what was a better performance on Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever it was, I thought, right, finally we can kind of get the bit in our teeth and kind of actually take the game to someone. And it was just ponderous, and there was no incision. And I mean, there was a part of me that was thinking they were playing in a torrential downpour. It was the ball that people were slipping, the ball was slipping all over the place. But It's the same for both teams, right? But it was just like
we mustn't forget it's been raining.
Yeah, in Manchester, like who could have predicted? Like no one would have ever thought that would be the case. But I'm not using that as an excuse. Like genuinely, that wasn't like a prelude to an excuse. But like it just seemed like there was no tempo in anything. Like and everything was sloppy and like people were like Casemiro just giving the ball away all the time and like it just seemed like nothing was coming off. Like the only real chances we had were that one Højlund chance where he flicked it over the keeper and it was cleared off the line basically, and then like a couple of I don't even want to say good saves from like there was the Højlund near post header and there was a Bruno shot that was basically straight at the keeper. Like there were saves, but like they weren't particularly difficult. I think just the flow of the game made them look more difficult, and there was just nothing there. Like Rashford looks like he's lost his. He started the season well, looking confident in taking people on, but it looks like just constantly getting nothing for his efforts is weighing on him a bit. Like his head drops, like, and a lot of players' heads drop, especially when we want one down.
Yeah,
like people just didn't look like they were able to find any motivation.
I've always said this about Rashford, especially when it was going badly under Solskjaer. And I know that he had. I'm not saying he was responsible or anything. I know that he had injuries and he played with like an injury for a year, and there was mitigating circumstances for Rashford's form, and obviously at that time no United player was any good. But I've always said about Rashford, it feels to me like when things start going wrong at United and he's playing, he almost sort of because he's the local kid and like he's come from the academy and whatnot, and he's that guy in the team. He almost sort of takes it all on himself in a way. Do you know what I mean? Like it almost sort of feels like that responsibility rests solely on him, and he feels like I get the impression he feels like he's responsible for it, sort of thing. Because like you say about his head dropping, it's stuff I've seen from him before, and it's like. You almost like it's good that he cares that much, but you almost want him to sort of rather than sort of be like, oh God, this is awful. You almost want him to sort of
get pissed off,
grab everyone by the scruff of the neck and go, come on, like we can. It's not. We're only 1-0 down. Like we can get back into this.
1-0 down at home against Palace. Like we can get back into this. Like, but it just
It's not that I'm comparing him. I'm only making the comparison because of the local lad come from the academy and stuff. I'm not saying they're similar types of players at all. Before you're gonna get a look on your face. But like, obviously, I've seen a lot of shit West Ham teams down the years, and obviously for a large period of that, Mark Noble was captain. And Mark Noble's the whole thing around Mark Noble was like he's Mr. West Ham. He was either vice captain or he's captain or whatever, and like. It's all on him. I never, even with Rice actually, when he was captain for us, like you rarely saw him sort of head down, sort of feeling like the weight of the world was on his shoulders. More often than not, especially in Noble's case, and it's obviously different because he's a central midfielder. You can probably influence the game a bit more in that area of the pitch. But again, that sort of thing of like sort of rallying everyone around, going like, "Come on, like we can do this. It's not all fucking doom and gloom or whatever." And I feel like Rashford just needs a little bit more of that in his game or his personality.
Yeah, I can't disagree, to be honest. But I think like what's been going on in the last 6 months, like it, just at the club in general, whether it be the sales or the behind the scenes issues or things going on with other players, like let's not forget, like as far as my understanding is, him and Jadon Sancho are really good mates. Like, so it's got to be like a stressful time, just a stressful work environment for him. Like your mate's been booted out to the youth team. He's not allowed to have lunch with them. Like, and you're still like the talisman in the team.
Yeah.
It's like, and things are all going to shit. Like everything's just basically the dumpster is full of dumpsters on fire. Like it's like at Man United at the minute. Like nothing's going right. Like we get our decent performance in, and then it all goes to shit again. Like there's the media are baying for the manager's head. Like. It just feels like everything's going wrong, and maybe you're right. Maybe as a United supporter, as a United kid, coming through, like that weighs extra on him. Maybe, or maybe it's just because things aren't coming off for him. It's not working. Like I don't know what it is, but like, and it's like, let's just clarify as well. This isn't all on Marcus Rashford. It's not just him. Who isn't performing. Not. Like there's a lot of very good players in that football team who are not pulling their weight. Like Casemiro started like he's got a trailer tied to the back of him. Bruno, just Bruno like always seemed to affect games either for good or bad, and he just doesn't seem to be affecting them at all at the minute, which is a bit of a worry.
Yeah.
Like, it'd either be a case of people were getting frustrated with him because he was giving the ball away by trying too hard to create, or he'd be scoring goals and getting assists. Like, those were the two options. Like, there was never never anything else. He always like runs hard. I think he runs more than anyone. He plays every game, but like that, even that isn't there for him right now. Like, so that's a bit of a worry when he's our most creative player. My big hope was having a big unit of a striker who's actually looked great. Let's be honest. Like, you know, just as an aside, I think he's looked really promising.
Yeah.
Having that kind of player in the team would benefit Bruno, and it's just not right now. You've got players who have always been 110% like blood and guts, like Scott McTominay. The games he's played this year, you can. Scott McTominay has never brought massive amounts of quality, but what he has brought is work rate, effort, kind of tireless running. Like, he'll stick his head in where it's gonna hurt. Like, he will do
sometimes you need those players.
Yeah, you definitely do, especially as part of a squad.
Yeah.
But this year, whenever he's been on a pitch, he doesn't even bring that. Like, if he isn't bringing the energy, he's not bringing anything else. So like, he looks like he doesn't want to be there. I wonder whether the whole like moving the whole move to West Ham falling through, whether that's played on him, and like he decided that he wasn't wanted at the club, and now he's kind of stuck there. Like, I don't know whether that's the case, but there just seems to be a lot of players that just aren't stepping up, aren't even mirroring the performances from last year, let alone stepping on with a more complete squad. And the excuses are running out now. Like, players are coming back from injury. I know we've got defensive injury issues, but that shouldn't be affecting our attacking play. Like, that shouldn't be affecting the effort of players in the final third, or like the creativity of players in the final third. It's like, we've got Galatasaray tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. I don't think it's going to be an easy game. I think we're away tomorrow, so you know, away in Turkey is never an easy game. Sorry, I just punched my microphone there. Sorry, apologies if I deafened anyone.
He's fuming, view.
Yeah, I'll do it. Look what you made me do. So yeah, like, we'll have to see how that goes. But things need to turn around and quickly, because, like I say, there's a lot of there's a swell of disapproval for Ten Hag at the minute, and it's one thing if, you know, telling people to piss off and play with the kids and getting rid of players and managing the team as he has, which is, you know, granted, like, with a bit of an iron fist. It's fine when you're winning. It's fine when this is paying off and it's performances are improving and things are going right on the pitch, but nothing's going right at the minute. And it's not just that we're losing games; it's the manner of them. It's the lack of creativity. It's like it's not even just the lack of goals scored; it's the lack of chances created. Because that was the big thing last year. Created tons of chances, didn't have anyone to put it away. We're just not doing that at the minute, and it needs to turn around. We've got a bit of a favourable run in terms of team, like the upcoming fixtures, but I said that a couple of weeks ago, and I was factoring the two Palace games into that, and we've just got beat 1-0 at home. So I don't know how it goes. I'll always back the United manager. I think the fact that people are calling for his head is ridiculous. But pressure does tell. Like, you know, and he is under pressure right now, and we'll just have to kind of see what happens, I guess.
I think I'm pretty sure I said this last week. I don't really see a massive difference between where United are now under Ten Hag and where Arsenal were under Arteta in season 2 of his reign, right?
Yeah.
Slightly different, obviously, because he joined midway through a season, but they still won a cup at the end of it. And then the following season or two after that, it might have been the following season after that, they were dreadful. And they were like, for around November time, they were 15th. And it was like, you know, a lot of the things, like a lot of the, I took part in some sadism earlier, listen to TalkSport. Like, a lot of the things that like were being said about Ten Hag and United right now, all the same stuff was being said about Arsenal and Arteta at that time. Like, you know, he's not good enough. You know, that Arsenal should not be 15th and all this, that, and the other. And I'm not saying it's going to go the same way, but sometimes it might just be worth sticking and just letting him carry on the project that he's obviously trying to build there. And ultimately as well, it's kind of what Arsenal had with Arteta at the time. If you get rid of him, who else is coming in? Like, there's no real, I can't really name a viable option who can come in and obviously there might be the odd one or two managers come and do a better job in the short term, but in the long term, like I don't know. I can't think of anyone really. Like obviously Poch is at Chelsea, Tuchel's at Bayern, like Nagelsmann just took the Germany job.
You just end up in the same cycle though. Like it's the same cycle that United have been in for the last 10 years. Like get a manager in, let him bring in his players, let him clear out the players he doesn't want. Things don't go quite right immediately. Get rid of him. Then the whole cycle starts again. You spend more money doing the same thing over and over and over again. And you're right. Like Arteta at Arsenal was allowed to finish 8th twice and then 5th before he kind of like got himself into that position. And I'll be honest, like I almost feel like Ten Hag overachieved last year in terms of winning a trophy and getting 3rd. Like there was a period where like we're only like 6 points behind Arsenal at one point, I think. So like, and everyone goes, all right, well next year he's got a challenge for the title now. So whereas I think if he'd have finished 8th last year, everyone would have gone, well, that's kind of where we expected United to be. They're a disaster. Like everything needs sorting. Like let them build up. The fact that he overachieved last year is giving him just a stick to beat with this year. And like I say,
same thing happened with Mourinho.
Yeah.
Exact same thing happened. What was it Mourinho's always said? Like one of his greatest ever achievements was finishing 2nd with that United squad. Yeah. Like, and it's like, it's like I say, I think it's that thing of just like, we always talk about where it's like, oh, it's Man United. So therefore, you know, just because they're Man United, they should be challenging for the title. And it's like, it doesn't work like that. And again, I feel like we should have learned this with what's happened with Arsenal. Like, because that was the thing they were saying about with Arteta at the time. It's like, well, no, they're Arsenal. They should be challenging for the top 4. It's like, the league isn't fucking sorted by reputation. It's just not. Like, and it's like you said, they sack Ten Hag now, maybe they get an interim, maybe they get Ollie back or whatever, then they get a new manager in the summer, and it's just like the cycle repeats itself. Like you said, if they had finished like 5th or 6th last year, and then they could have, and even if they had the same starts this year, it still wouldn't have looked as bad. And I don't know. I just don't see what United have to gain from sacking him, even if they are bottom half of the table by November. Honestly, I think at this point, you've tried this where you've not, you know, you sacked managers after a few seasons as soon as it starts going wrong, and then like you say, the cycle repeats itself. Maybe just let this one ride out. Like just let it ride out for like 3 or 4 years and just see where you end up. If you give him this year and you finish like 8th, let's say, and then next season you're once again in the bottom half by Christmas, then maybe it's time to go. It's probably not working. Like if you obviously spend more money and all this sort of stuff, like. But at the moment, I just don't see the point. Because again, who else is there?
Yeah, 100%. The only thing that I'd say is slightly different with where United are at right now and where Arsenal were at the time is Arsenal were bringing through a load of young players, and United have got a few, but we've also just signed we've just signed a Casemiro. You've got like all of our big players, all of our better players are in that period of their career where they'll want to be winning stuff, and they'll know that there'll be teams interested in, like teams who are challenging for trophies who will be interested in them if things start going wrong at Man United. I mean, the perfect example is Harry Kane, right? Like he wasn't hurting for offers. Like he could have picked any club probably that he wanted to. Bayern came in, but you've got players like Bruno Fernandes who have shown what good players they are. Like they wouldn't be short of offers. You know, there's the perennial Rashford to PSG rumors. Like especially if Mbappe leaves this year, that's going to be the headline every day. Like it's just Rashford to PSG ? Things like that, and then before you know it, you've got, Casemiro's 32. You've got Varane who's in his early 30s who's got injury issues. You lose a couple of players like that, and you're immediate on the back foot. You've lost your game changers. You've got an aging squad, and a team that's okay. Like, and what have we got to show for it? The highest net transfer spend in the last decade. Like, cool.
You'll never sing that.
Oh man, I don't know. It's rough.
I feel like I'm more optimistic for United's future than you are. I actually think Ten Hag's a decent manager. I do think he will get there.
I think he's a good manager. He proved it last year. He's proved it in previous places. My frustration is more with just the soap opera that is Man United.
Yeah.
Like, that's the issue. I don't think the players are necessarily the issue. I don't think that the manager's necessarily the issue. I think it's just a combination of everything that's going on. I think it's just an absolute soap opera. Like, you know, doesn't matter what industry and what your job is. Like, if your place of work is a disaster, it's going to affect you. Like, and I think it's just affecting the players. We'll see what happens. Apparently, there's been like changes in the offers from Jim Ratcliffe today.
Saw this today, yeah.
There's, you know, hopefully like the player issues are getting sorted out soon. Like, we'll see where it goes from there. But I'm not necessarily like downbeat or downtrodden. I'm just like frustrated with everything that's going on. It's like, because there's good players there, there's a good manager there. We should be doing better. Why isn't it? Like, for me, all the arrows are pointing at one thing, but you read a newspaper or listen to TalkSport, and they'd just be saying that Ten Hag's useless and all the players are crap. It's like, well, they're not.
Yeah.
You know, there's proof that that's not the case. Like, literal proof 4 months ago. Like, so, but you know, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story, eh?
No, definitely not. I had some talked about earlier, and like I have to reiterate this. Like, Simon Jordan is like, I can see why people like him. I'm indifferent. Jim White is a wanker though. I cannot. There are no words that I can use to describe Jim White. It's just Jim White gives me the ick.
Yeah,
that's as best as I can describe it.
Like,
awful little man.
He has that attitude of, how do I best put this? Like, I'm just asking the difficult question. I'm just playing devil's advocate. It's like, no, you're not. You're just trying to bait a shitty response out of somebody. That's like, you're just trying to draw it out. And it's like,
he does that Piers Morgan thing where it's like, I'm asking the hard hitting questions. Yeah. I'm a really good journalist. It's like, no, you're not.
No, you're not. You're literally just trying to get a snip. You're just trying to get clipped up. That's all it is. Everything, but that's just TalkSport anyway, isn't it?
Yeah. Put him in the bin.
Well, speaking of putting it in the bin, should we talk about Spurs and Liverpool and the inevitable VAR discussion? I thought it was an interesting game. This, right? I did watch the entirety of it. Obviously, like, we'll save the VAR discussion to right at the end, right? I thought it was a good game. I thought Spurs, when Liverpool went down to 9 men, should have just like taken this game and run away with it. But like, they look scared. They look scared of Liverpool. I think they'd seen what had happened at Newcastle, right? When Liverpool went down to 10 and won it with those 2 late Nunez goals. Yeah. They look scared that they were going to get caught on the counter punch like that, because Liverpool still had players on the pitch that could make a difference, right? But finally got the breakthrough, got the goal. In terms of the, like, I don't think I saw loads of people saying like, oh, there's no way that's a red card. You got to take intent into it and stuff.
Yeah.
And like, whilst I agree, like, there's still like innumerable examples of that exact tackle ending in a red card. Like, because like it or not, intent or not, he's gone over the ball. He could have broken his leg. Like,
yeah,
I agree. Intent has to be taken into account, but also you've just got to call dangerous play at certain times. So for me, and that's not just me as a United fan watching a Liverpool game.
No, of
like,
course.
That's any game, and I'm saying, yeah, that's a red card. Like, at least you can't argue it if it's given. If it's not given, then yeah, maybe there's a bit of discussion around it. But for me, that was a red. I think Diogo Jota, yeah, the first yellow was soft, but then he's just an idiot. Like, yeah, why would you even put yourself in that position, having just, because it was only like a few minutes earlier, wasn't it? Like,
yeah,
literally just been given a yellow card.
It's why would you dive in from behind? The pitch as well. Yeah, like, it was such it was like right on a touch, like, it was just needless. Like, yeah, more like I say, just that ruined any chance of Liverpool getting anything out of that game ultimately. Because I think with like I say, with 10 men, Liverpool still could have. They were about to bring Nunez on before that happened. Like, and he
just oof it over the top, off he goes.
Exactly. The way Spurs were pushing for it, he would have been perfect in that situation for Liverpool. Just on the Jones red, I did tweet like, oh, that's harsh. Like, at the time,
because it's harsh, but it's a red.
No, absolutely. Like, because I was on the overgrounds back from Stratford, like watching the first half of my phone, and I said my initial reaction seeing it was like, yeah, that's really harsh. I don't know how I feel about that, but it's one of them. The more I've watched it, yeah, because I look at it like this: if I'm if I'm a Spurs fan in that situation, I'm screaming for a red.
Yeah.
And I think if Liverpool fans are honest with themselves, if the roles were reversed and Bazuma did that exact same situation, they'd be calling for a red card. I think it's that thing of like, we're so used to over the years of like, intent is the main factor with those sort of tackles of reds over the years, like pre-VAR. Whereas now, like you say, it doesn't always have to be the be all and end all, whether it was intent or not. Like it was, same feel harsh saying it was reckless. I think Jones just unlucky.
Yeah.
Like I feel like saying it was reckless or whatever, out of control again is a bit harsh. So I think he's just really unlucky. But like you say, he could have broken the dude's leg. So I think when it comes down to that, I think that it was ultimately the correct decision. So
and you see it with like,
I do have sympathy for him.
Yeah, you see it like with overhead kicks, like someone will get belted in the side of the head, and like people like accidentally catch someone with their arm, like, and it happens. Like some people are unlucky, it's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, like he's still gone over the ball, he's still gone right onto the side of the guy's shin, like, and whilst like he looked horrified that he'd done it, like it doesn't stop it from having happened, right? Like there'd be just as many arguments the other way if that wasn't given as a red. Like I think like it's one of those things where you've just got to keep. Everyone always wants consistency. Like everyone always bleats on about consistency, and that being the issue with whether it be in referees or VAR. And that just needs to be a red card, like in those situations.
Yeah.
For me, anyway. Like, and I'd be saying the same if it was a United player who went over the top. Like, like you can't do that. It's unfortunate, but you can't do that in a game.
There was the only thing that bugged me about it, and I guess this is going to lead on to the VAR chat, is that I don't like the fact that when the referee goes over there, the first thing he sees is the still image.
Yeah.
That I really don't like that, because they probably would have come to that agreement anyway. But I think going over after already being told you need to go look at this, there's already that seed of doubt in his mind of like, oh, maybe I need to change my mind here. To then go over there and the first thing you see is just a still image of the point of contact.
Yeah.
Which effectively, like I know they do play the full clip, but on first viewing removes any context of what actually happened. For me, that's because that just feels like to me like VAR just going like, yeah, go on, send him off. Like, do you know what I mean? That for me, I'm really not a fan of.
And again, that's just another implementation thing of how VAR's done. Like I've said all along, like a referee should get just one viewing of each of the other angles. So say like there's 3 angles, you can get it from the TV view, you can get it from the sideline and from behind, maybe like however many it is, and you can watch all those twice, like only at real speed. Like you can't slow it down frame by frame. You can't do any of that kind of stuff, because if it's just a case of, oh, I saw it from the wrong angle, or like I just didn't see it, I missed it. If I see it from another angle, I'll have a better idea. And even then, like there needs to be less pressure on the ref to actually change their mind. Like I say, I think it was the right decision in the end. But again, like going about it the way that it was wrong, and it kind of like it plants that seed of look how bad this was before he's even watched the replay. So like
I'll say thankfully for that. Well, no, not thankfully, but like, it was like if you thought that was bad.
Well, luckily there was no other VAR controversy in this game. So.
Not like 5-10 minutes later. So like I said, I was watching the game on my phone on the overground back home, and the goal goes in, and it's like, oh, the flag's up, and the replay happens, and I think probably like everyone else, you sort of see the replay and you go, oh, it looks, that's tight. It looks like he's on though, but it's tight. And then just, oh no, VAR have said no, it's correct decision, no goal. And it was like, oh, okay, that's weird. They didn't draw the lines, but maybe that's just because they're trying to speed it up a little bit, and they've already drawn the lines, and they just maybe Sky forgot to show it or whatever. But like I say, you see it more and more, especially during half time. You're like, no, see, he looks on the side. What the fuck's happened? And then obviously the statement comes out and all the stuff comes out, and one question out of all the contentious VAR decisions or cock-ups that have happened, not just this season, over years, is this the worst one ever?
It's hard to say it's the worst one ever. It's definitely the most, just because of recency bias, right? Like I'm sure there's other completely egregious ones, but this is bad. Like not only did they get it wrong, it's the way that it was done wrong. Like, I heard a great, I can't remember who it was now. It was either on a podcast or on the radio. It's like someone saying, what is the point of the assistant video ref, right? If the VAR is going to make that decision and he doesn't go, whoa, hold
Yeah.
up, like you misheard that, or you've got this wrong. Like, what's the point of the assistant VAR at that point? Like, it's one thing to get the on-field decision wrong. It's another thing to like go, all right, well, we're not going to overturn it. And then there's the fail-safe that hasn't safely failed. You know, it's just completely failed. It's such an incredible amount of cock-ups that have led to it, and yeah, like it should have been a goal, but like then there's this whole kind of thing of like Liverpool now asking for a recording of what was said. It's like, and I got into a bit of I don't want to say a heated discussion on my Discord about this before, but like it was a Liverpool fan going, I'm glad they're asking for it, and my only point is like, to what end? Like I understand why they're asking for it. It's like, but what are you hoping? What are Liverpool hoping to get from this? Like I don't see what it benefits anybody. Like, they're already being hung out to dry. They're already being made to answer all these questions and stuff. And the only thing I can get is like, oh, you just hold them accountable. It's like, they're being held accountable. Have you not seen all of this? Like,
it's that thing we spoke about with the VAR review show or whatever it is that Michael Owen hosts. It's exactly what I said back then of like, well, it's like, I've never understood when people go, oh, this is so good. You get to hear why? Because if it's the wrong decision, again, what does that do? I think the thing with Liverpool asking for the recordings, I don't know whether it's they're gearing up to. I mean, if they are doing this, and I should stress, there's been no, because I've seen a lot of people banging. I've seen the sort of narrative that's being pushed today is like, oh, they're going to ask to replay the game. Like Liverpool Football Club aren't going to do that. That's just been a thing that Liverpool football Twitter has sort of started asking for, and journalists have run that as like, oh, read between the lines. It's like, no, they've not. The more likely scenario is they're probably going to try and take, or they're at least exploring maybe taking legal action. But that is just me guessing. I'm not saying that as like a fact. And if they do that, they're idiots because it's done. And to me, just very quick, I thought Jurgen Klopp actually handled the interview afterwards really, really well, because I was expecting him to go ballistic. Yeah. Like he was almost apathetic about it. Where he was just like, I mean, yeah, it's a wrong decision, but what does me crying about it though? And it's like, ultimately, like, but I think you said earlier, it feels very much like the straw that brought the camel's back on this one, because there's just so much wrong with it for me. Like and obviously the protocol, and I guess you're not going to find out the protocol doesn't work until you're in this situation, right? But the whole thing of like, oh, well, they've taken the free kick and now we can't go back and stop it. And it's like, but it's like you said, where was the assistant VAR sort of going like, wait, hang on, why are Spurs taking a free kick? Yeah. When we've said check complete, meaning goal. What's going on? Get bloody Simon back on the phone.
Yeah.
Because something's gone wrong. So like that bit I can't understand. I find it weird that they also say, oh, we thought the goal was given, so that's why we said check complete. Yeah, I'm assuming they get the same. I don't know how it works, but on the coverage, when you're showing the VAR replay, it says check in disallowed goal.
Yeah.
So where does that? But I don't know where that check-in disallowed goal bit comes from. Does that come from Stockley Park? Is that just Sky? Like
I have no idea, to be honest.
No idea. But and the fact it was shown that, like, it was shown, I don't know. So that whole thing is weird. I'm not suggesting a conspiracy. I'll get onto that in a second. But like, there's that. There's the fact that Darren England's, and I think one of the other VAR referees was in the UAE 40 hours before. Again, not suggesting conspiracy, but more suggesting, how the fuck has that been allowed? Yeah. Like 3 days before a Premier League game, one of the biggest ones of the weekend. And now, obviously, you've got decent grounds to look at that and say, well, is it because you only got back a couple of nights ago that you're like knackered from traveling and you've just not been paying attention to the screen properly to know what's going on? Just, I don't know. It just feels to me like, because the red card one we spoke about, Curtis Jones, penalty decisions, handballs, they're all pretty much subjective. Like, I think everyone can agree on.
Yeah.
It feels like this season, more than any other season where we've had VAR, everyone is kind of on the same page of what is offside and what's not offside. I don't see as many stills of the lines being drawn and people going, oh, this is ridiculous. Most people seem to accept it. This current state of offside is offside. We're all happy with it. Cool. It's not a subjective call.
Yeah.
So to get that so unbelievably wrong in the manner that they did, it's like loads of people have been saying today. I think it just completely undermines what VAR has been brought in to try and do, and any confidence anyone can have. Yeah, any confidence anyone can have in the PGMOL or the on-field officials or the Stockley Park officials. I don't see how moving forward anyone can have any trust in their ability to do this properly. It's fucking staggering to me how bad of a cock up that is, and it's. I'm not saying these people should lose their jobs. Or anything like that. I'm not going to advocate for that. But it does just seem so. We'll apologize. I felt that there was a very weak non-apology or statement they read out or they put out. And I just don't. Well, again, it's that thing of like, well, what? Okay, great, but maybe this is more Liverpool's point of like, in terms of like, escalating and raising it sort of thing and find solutions. Like, okay, great, you've kind of apologized or whatever. What are you going to do about it now to make sure this doesn't happen again? Because this is. It's fucked. Like no one's happy with this. Like it's just sucks.
Yeah, and it's as well something that we're not going to know the true ramifications of until the end of the season. Because imagine Liverpool miss out on the title by 2 points, something like that, or even just a point. It's like, well, that goal should have counted. Well, whatever.
Who knows what have happened?
Who knows what have happened? Yeah. But there's a lot of what ifs and what aboutery, but. We've gone through so long of getting used to the refs not or the linesman not putting the flag up for offside and then it being checked afterwards, and now it just seems like this one time they do put the flag up, the referee listens to it, all the wires get crossed, and everyone's confused. I mean, before VAR that would have been flagged off offside, and then it had just been a discussion point on Monday or on the Sunday. But because this is the whole point of it being here, is to stop that being a discussion point, to get the fundamentals of the game, because like you say, it's not an opinion. You're either on or you're off. I was I don't want to say fuming, but I was gutted when that Garnacho goal didn't count for Arsenal. But you know what? He was off.
He was off.
might have been by an inch, but he was off. Whereas this just wasn't. So I completely understand Liverpool's frustrations and Liverpool fans' frustrations. I just don't understand or really know where this whole kind of this investigation from Liverpool's going. But if it is just a case of saying, what are you going to be doing about it? Fair enough. But I think it's going to be more than Liverpool that are going to be asking that. I think it's going to be everybody. The Premier League
as well.
And and it has to be everyone asking what are you going to do about this, because it can't continue.
It feels like this. It feels like this. The way it's been going has almost been building to an instant like this. Do you know, because we've said it before, right? It feels like every week there's a massive there was one in the Forest Brentford game where Brentford should have had a penalty. There's when you look at the replay and it's that is, and again that is a subjective one, but it's still that is pretty much the stonewalls of penalties you can ask for. And it just gets missed.
Well, here's another one. Not just be again, to go back to the United Palace game. Anderson handballs it, so the ball goes away from Rashford and the ball over the top. And I heard the argument of oh well, he's looking at Rashford, he's not looking at the ball. It's all right, well he's still handballed it. If you're not looking at the ball, is it not handball now? He's stopped the play. Because he's not paying attention to where the ball is. Surely that's as much of a penalty as any other handball. But I'm used to not getting handball penalties this year anyway. But but it's I feel like that's been that's a minor thing. But again, I think it's a thing that needs to be discussed. I have no idea what handball is. I have no idea what constitutes a penalty anymore. Now I've got no idea what offside is. What's the point in any of it? Let's just should we just call our own fouls and we'll have jumpers for goalposts as well.
I think I was listening to TalkSport earlier because it was actually. Weirdly enough, it was actually fairly well. It would have been an interesting conversation if Jim White wasn't interrupting every 2 seconds. But it was him, Simon Jordan, and Danny Murphy. And Danny, because it's so difficult to listen to because Simon Jordan just keeps saying football fraternity every 30 seconds, we're supposed to that's a point. But Danny Murphy's basically trying to make the point of look, I've obviously part of being a pundit. I've tried to I've looked through the rules and the different iterations of what a handball is and all the different mitigating circumstances and all this sort of thing. And he's I have sympathy for referees in that regard because, as we said before, it can get confusing of you talk about body position, proximity, all this sort of stuff. And I've seen a few people stress it today in terms of what's the solution moving forwards. And it's maybe it should just be a case now where VAR is just there. So you have, obviously it's not VAR, but you have goal line tech for whether a ball goes over the line or not. And VAR is used for offsides. And everything else can be at the discretion of the referee on the pitch because I don't know. other than that, I don't really know where else you can go. You can really go from here. Ultimately,
I've said it in the past. Like, it should be an option for the referee to call upon rather than something that's instructed.
Yeah.
Like, for a potential penalty, he could go, "I want to see that from another angle." Or,
Yeah.
"I'd like to see that again." Like, I don't know if I saw it properly in real time.
Yeah.
Like, they should be asking for it rather than them getting something in their ear going, go over and look at this. Because then what that does then is that takes the pressure off the referee of, like, being told you've got this wrong. That's the referee going, I just want to make sure I got the right thing there. Like, and then he can go over, watch a couple of replays from different angles and go, no, I'm happy with my decision, or no, that was actually a foul. Like, that kind of thing.
But
that'd be the way to do it.
There's been so many times, but like you can probably, like, I'm sure I've heard referees talk about this before, where it's like, especially if it's like a sliding tackle in the box, right, and it's like proper, like, depending on the angle, it's not obvious whether the defender's got the ball or not. And there's probably been times pre-VAR where referee's blown for a penalty and then probably quite quickly gone, fuck, I'm not sure about that actually. And it's like you say, it would actually be good if, like, those sort of instances, for example, where it's like, I don't know, was there one in the United Arsenal game? There was like a fairly was it? I'm trying to think. Was it Arsenal got denied a penalty or something? Or I can't remember.
United got denied a penalty as well. Like, there was a couple in that game where
but it's like, let's say where referee blows one, like you say, it'd be great if he was like, actually, just to make sure, I'm gonna go look at this just in case, like, a defender might got touching the ball, so I'm just gonna come look at this. Others, he can go, no, straight up, I'm just gonna award that one. And then if he doesn't decide to use VAR and it is being wrong, that's on him. And I actually think probably they might actually prefer that.
Yeah.
Because this, like, since that game on Sunday, my Twitter and Sky Sports, everything, it's just been on this. And it must, I don't think I know we probably moaned about referees a lot pre-VAR. I don't remember it being this, like, high profile or this, like,
it's because so many of these decisions are supposed to be being wrapped up by the VAR. That's the issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be getting rid of the issue, and it's drawing more of a light on it, just shining more of a light on the issue rather than anything. And I'll go back to something that I said like in a previous pod, that, like, the only way that this gets solved is by more investment in it as well. Like, not necessarily in VAR, but investing in referees. Like, pay them properly, pay them for the importance that they are. They are the people in charge of the games in the most most moneyed league, the most watched league in the world. Pay them like it, like, train them, upskill them, like, get people into these positions that are good at the job. I said it before, like, maybe it'll be a case of we won't really see VAR used to its full kind of competency or kind of see the best version of VAR until it's referees that have come into it learning VAR, rather than referees that have spent 10 years, 15 years refereeing without it, then being expected to pick it up and do it that way. Maybe we need a new generation of referees to come through that are properly trained, do it in, like, Stockley Park or St George's Park or wherever, train a load of people who want to be referees to do it to the highest degree and employ them like that. Don't do it. You said, like, don't do it grassroots and up.
No.
Like, have an elite academy of referees for the ones that want to do it.
It's interesting you mentioned a thread. I won't read the entire thread. I'll just read the first tweet. It's from a guy called Daniel Story. I think he's a chief football writer at the iPaper. And the first tweet he says is, I know people aren't ready to hear this, but there's a lot of fine, better refs about. Fine, but where? There's a chronic shortage in grassroots and a worry about standards in the EFL. Abuse crisis lower down means it's simply not an attractive career choice. And this is what I said, like, I think when we had this discussion last time, it's what maybe this does happen. I'm just unaware of it. But why can't we, like I said, an academy of refs and have them start at under 15s, 16s, 17s, 18s, onwards and upwards? Because then it's all working in harmony then, because then you can have the coaches of the academy players teaching their players, this is how you approach a referee during the game, or only the captain's allowed to talk to him. And if you start giving abuse to the referee on the pitch, you're hooked and you're fined or whatever, or you're dropped for the next game or something like that. And you sort of build that up as the players go through the academy process, and it can be the same for every academy in the country if they end up moving on or whatever. And that way, eventually, in maybe like 10, 15 years, you have referees who are refereeing in a less pressure-filled environment, which is mental when you think about it, that grassroots could be a more pressure-filled environment than a Premier League or professional football club's academy. But it would be, because you wouldn't have knobhead parents on the side of the pitch, joining in with the abuse.
Yeah.
and almost still
beaten up
encouraging
in the
it.
car park after.
Exactly, which has happened.
Yeah.
Like, at grassroots level. Like,
yeah.
Like, Dan's not joking. That wasn't a joke. Like,
that wasn't a gag. Like that shit happens. Like,
if you're listening outside of England, that's a thing. Like, it's that for me seems to be. And I've mentioned this on streams on Twitter and stuff a few times down the years, and no one's come to me with an argument to say why that wouldn't work. Like, it can't just be, oh, we'll just get them doing Sunday League for a couple of years, and then if they stick it out, then maybe we'll get them in the Football League. It can't be like that, because then again, like Daniel said in this tweet there, and like you said, how else does the standard get better? It just doesn't.
Yeah, it's got to be fully invested. It's like, hoping that you can find a 25-year-old, European quality striker in Sunday League and just get it. Oh well, we'll get him a year in League Two, get him a year in the Championship. He's in the Premier League now. It's like,
yeah,
cool. How many times has that happened? Maybe like 3 times in my lifetime that I can think of, where like a player has made that journey. It needs to be more like, it needs to be invested in. It needs to be something that's taken seriously, because it's not, and it's affecting the game. It's affecting the quality of the game. And it's going to eventually affect the attractiveness of the game, and like people wanting to watch it, people wanting to pay big subscriptions for it, for like people in foreign countries wanting to watch it as well. Like, it will all come to a head. That will happen at some point if it doesn't get sorted. Yeah, it's just a disaster at the minute, and I think it is, as you said earlier, the lowest point in terms of trust for refereeing and VAR that I think the football public has had in it, and I don't doubt that managers and players feel the exact same way.
I'm seeing people who would never usually be like this, almost sort of start crossing over into like maybe it is a big conspiracy, and it's like I've never believed into that, because I've always said you speak to pretty much any. There'll always be a selection of people in every fan base, especially in the Premier League, where VAR is in Premier League, where they'll think that the league's corrupt. And like, it's just everyone's against us. It's like, well, if that was the case, then it can't be true, because
every club is the same.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like you're seeing people now sort of a bit like almost questioning their own logic of just like, well, but then what other answer is there? It's like I said this on Twitter the other day. We've got to stop confusing corruption for incompetence. Yeah, that's all it is. It's just incompetence. Yeah. So like, no one's out to get you. Like, you're no more of a victim of bad VAR decisions as anyone else is. Like. It's just like I say, it's just that at the moment the standards aren't up to scratch, and the implementation of the tech and of the of VAR is just not being used properly. And I'd hate to be Howard Webb right now, because he's got a massive job on his hands. But if all they come of this is just he's going to do another show with Michael Owen, and they're going to play the audio for everyone to hear, that is nowhere near good enough. But
no, there needs to be like tangible change in the process. Like after this. And that's just the way it'll be. Like, I've always been a pro VAR in terms of getting the decisions right is the right thing to do. Like, and I've had these arguments with people who are anti-VAR and who hate it and all that kind of stuff. Like, but at this point, it's like, maybe it is better to just get rid for the rest of the year. Like,
I don't know. I don't know if we can, though. Like, I feel like the horse is bolted. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it definitely. But it's like, well, there's also the thing of like, well, it can't get any worse, surely. Like, like. Surely, right? It's not going to get any worse, is it?
But you know what happened though? We get rid of it, and then that's that first weekend without it. There'll be a contentious like offside, and like, oh, bring it back.
Yeah. Why did we get rid of VAR anyway? Well, I think we'll stick a pin in the VAR discussion until the next.
Until next week.
Until next week when something else goes wrong. I do want to briefly touch on a couple of things. Obviously, we briefly talked about the Wolves City game before, where massive win for Wolves, who I had was one of the favourites to go down. They've shown a lot of grit and determination. Gary O'Neill is once again kind of showing that he might actually be a bit of a manager. Like, I think he did it with Bournemouth last year, and everyone was going, Lightning can't strike twice, and he beats Man City 2-1. One of the big things is, like, I think Rodri is massively missed. I think it's I don't think it's necessarily just him missing. I think, you tie that into a bit like Kevin De Bruyne being out and John Stones, who probably would have stepped forward and played there if he'd have been fit, or all that kind of stuff. It's the quality of the players stepping into that position, I think. Because I think it was like Kovacic started in that holding role, gave the ball away loads. Like, he's as good a player as he is. He isn't a defensive, like, he's not that number 6. He's not a Rodri. Like, not many players are, but he's not even a bad version of a Rodri. Like, you've got Calvin Phillips, who's played about 8 minutes in the last 3 years. Like, so he's not going to step in and step up.
I'm not being funny. Sorry to jump in, but I'm not being funny. And I don't watch loads of City, and I've not seen. I don't think anyone has seen loads of Calvin Phillips at City. I refuse to believe he's that bad. That like in a game where Rodri is suspended away at Wolves, who, like you say, one of the favourites to go down, he can't get a start in that one.
Yeah,
like that Pep would rather play a creative midfielder like Kovacic as the 6 rather than Calvin Phillips, who is a holding midfielder who can do that job. Maybe not, obviously not to the same standard as Rodri, but like, is he really? City fans might know more who actually have seen him play in a City shirt, and sure, he's probably not up to the level of their other midfielders, but not many midfielders in football would be.
Yeah,
like. But I refuse to believe for that particular game he wouldn't have done a decent enough job.
I mean, he ended up coming on after the first half, I think, or it was like very early in the second half. So he did end up coming on and playing in there, and it was another one of those games where it felt like City could have created enough, like could have won the game any other day. I think you play that game 100 times and Man City win 99 of them. I kind of felt like that with the United Palace game, to be honest. The amount of chances we created and the way that the game went, but. Like, I think it was just one of those Premier League Prime Barclays weekends where, Wolves beat Man City 2-1 somehow. Like, it happens.
And weirdly, not even the most surprising result of the weekend.
No. But also, like, just as a final point on that, the best part about that was the Korean guy, as Pep called him, scored the winner. I was like, oh. That feels so good. That was just
a bit of an oof from Pep.
yeah. And as you say, not the most surprising result of the weekend. Luton, away from home, beating Everton 2-1. I mean, bravo, fair play, Luton. Everton missed enough chances in that game to win 3 games. Like, I don't know what more they need to do to score a goal. Like, I think they rattled the woodwork about 3 times. Like, Beto missed 2, like, I don't want to say sitters, but really good headed opportunities.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just, again, like, I feel like Everton, every time I've watched them, they've played really well and got nothing out of it. They obviously got a win last week, and they're playing a little bit better. They've got some forwards back, but again, it looked like whatever they did, they just weren't. They could have played for 3 hours and they weren't scoring a goal there. Like, it was.
I put the. So I was going to say, I put the question in the running order, so over the job, but only because I think it was the year Norwich were last in the Prem, where it felt like any team who lost to Norwich, the manager got sacked the next day. So I think it was like Benitez, Everton, when I think there was a couple others as well. It was like. It's basically losing at home to Luton justifiable enough reason to sack Sean Dyche. I mean, like, you can imagine being in the office going, Sean mate, it's Luton. Yeah, fair enough. I'll give it a go.
Or he's just like the resignation letters on the desk. It's like, it just says,
say no more.
It just says, Luton, bye.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, fair play to Luton. Maybe they won't get that record low point score. We'll see. They're still, I mean, Sheffield United are still working on it. So
yeah, God, they are shit. By the way, my good God, I've seen some dross teams at London Stadium over the last few years. Sometimes it's West Ham, but
most of the time,
they're bad. They're really not good. Like, Hamer's their best player, and if he's not on it, none of them are. They are. Oh yeah, long season for Sheffield United. So, but no, I'm over the moon for Luton. Like, I don't want them to match Derby's record. Obviously, like, it's a fairy tale story. I think unless you're playing them that weekend, you don't want to be the team they beat. Like, you want them to have a good season. But yeah, I said to my mate, I saw the scores coming in as we were watching the game on Saturday, and I was like, thing is, it's not just their first win. It's an away win at a ground like Goodison Park against Everton, who are like one of the established Premier League teams.
They are the cockroach of the Premier League, aren't they, Everton?
Exactly, yeah.
Just never go away.
Like, it must be. Oh man, to be in that away in must have been fantastic for them. So fair play to them. Still think they're going to go down. But I'd be certainly probably more concerned if I was an Everton fan after the weekend. Like you said, created the chances and whatnot, but it's not looking. I don't want to say it's not looking good in terms of they're definitely down, but That's
need
a horrible
they just
result.
need some of their forward players to actually start putting the ball in the back of the net. Because, like I say, they're creating chances. I think in terms of, I know like people love or hate XG and things like that, but like they're the most profligate in terms of against their XG in the Premier League. I think.
Yeah.
In terms of they create loads of chances, they just aren't finishing them, and they just
Yeah.
that needs to change around. Like I think there was an opportunity where it's like it was in front of the goal and it somehow didn't end up in the back of the net. And I think the commentator on Match of the Day was like, "There's another one for XG." So if they can start finding it, like the way that they're playing, Everton could just as easily go on a 3 or 4 match unbeaten run, like as they could lose a game. And I think it's getting that morale, it's getting that win, getting a few goals, and getting your head up. And I think it's kind of the same with speaking as a United fan, right? Like I get the feeling that like when the mojo hits, like things will be okay. It's just it needs to start happening a little bit quicker than it is. Like, and the final game that we were going to discuss is one that we've just watched. We're recording this on Monday night. Just watched Fulham lose to Chelsea. Chelsea finally scoring some. Yeah. Chelsea finally scoring some goals. Fulham conceding them finally because it feels like Leno's just been the best keeper in the Premier League for the last 12 months. In terms of like just keeping the ball out of the goal anyway. He's been outstanding. And yeah, there's only so many times you can let a team run directly at your goal. And so only so many saves you can make, because even in this game he made some massive saves. But you know, when Mykhailo Mudryk's scoring against you, you know it's going to be a bad day at the office.
Yeah, it feels. Shout out to Domino's for condemning Fulham to defeat hours before kickoff.
What a team talk that was.
Yeah, like can you imagine that? Because I doubt if Fulham did sort that out, they've had a stinker. But even if they had, like, imagine if they didn't, they're just sitting there going like, "Well, we're never running from there again." Like Papa John's the rest of the season. Maybe not Papa John's. But
we got the pizza up.
Them. Yeah, pizza away. Let's go. Yeah, Fulham. It almost felt like Fulham set up to give Chelsea the win. I was watching that. Like I was like, "Oh no, you really have just set up to play directly into their hands here, haven't you?" It's like they've started with like Mudryk on the wing and Palmer out wide, and it's like what we're going to do is we're just going to push everyone forward and leave Diop, who is one of the most like unreliable centre backs in the league, alongside Tim Ream, who can barely walk. Like and we're just gonna push everyone forward and let them just dink it over our centre backs about 6 times in the first half. Like I've got no sympathy for them. They were dreadful. Like I can't believe the naivety in which they approached that. And like I get it, Chelsea are on a really bad run of form, and they probably thought it's under the lights, you know, West London derby. We're going to take it to them, and we're going to, you know, give them a real game. It's not how you. These teams are showing. It's not how you beat Chelsea. You sit back, you let them try and break you down, and then you just sort of mentally drain them, and then you go and hit them.
It's not them mentally drain themselves at this point.
Basically, yeah.
I don't know if you got the same kind of feeling as well, that like, and let's put this right. This wasn't a particularly good Chelsea performance. It was just a particularly bad Fulham one.
I thought first half was probably there was moments in the first half where I was like, this is the best I've seen Chelsea look this season. But like as a whole, it wasn't like
the interplay was nice. But like, when I look at the way that they line up, and especially tonight, it looks like all the players are in the wrong position. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I saw a tweet as well. I think Dan Gare tweeted it. I was like, why is he playing a left-footed left back, right back, so that he can shift over his left-footed centre back to play at left back? It's like it's all wrong. You're playing 120, the most expensive holding midfielder in history as a number 10. Like it's like what is going on? Like why is this happening? Why are you setting up this way? And like, and it's worked out, fair play. They won the game at the end of the day. And Enzo Fernandez is a wonderful player wherever you play him in midfield. But he is. When I saw him playing for Argentina, the best games I saw him play for Chelsea last year, one of the best midfield performances I've seen in ages was him in a Chelsea shirt last year, where he just absolutely dominated, just like sat in the middle of the park. He was beating every press. He was just knocking the ball around for fun, finding like balls into the channel. Everyone was missing, but like, but he absolutely ran the game. But now he's being used as this like number 10 who breaks into the box. It's like, it feels like you're losing his influence on the game playing him like that.
Yeah, I follow there's an account I follow, Euro Expert. If people aren't already following him on Twitter, they absolutely should. He's a great account. Got like, obviously closed name covers loads of European football rather than the Premier League. But he's been obviously, I think he's because of the amount of players from overseas and from Europe that Chelsea have signed. He's been keeping a particular eye on them, especially Enzo. And since the start of the season, he's been banging on about the fact like he's not a number 10. Like play him deeper, and you'll reap the benefits of him. And like I think he tweeted at half time. It's like, there you go. It's like you playing him deeper next to like Caicedo and letting Gallagher do the sort of the pressing higher up the pitch, and you read the rewards from it. He's another one actually. Gallagher, I thought was really really good tonight.
Yeah, he was everywhere.
Really like Conor Gallagher. Like he just runs. That's all he does. He does it so well.
He had a really good breakout season at Palace, and I felt like he got hard done by last year. But no one was good for Chelsea last year.
No,
but if he's given that that same role that he had at Palace, where he's kind of like a number 10, but he just presses he is the press in the final third. Just let him do that because he's just got an engine that goes all day. He's a decent footballer. I don't think he's a world class playmaker or goal scorer or anything like that. But in terms of he's kind of like that Scott McTominay with a bit more quality. Like he'll just give you everything all game.
Yeah.
And given that where he plays and how they want that high press, that could be great. Similar to the way that Mount has been in his best years.
Yeah.
Technically sound. He's not a creative master. He's not a massive goal scorer, but he'll run all game. He's a very tactically aware player. He'll get you 10 goals and assists throughout the year just through being in those areas and winning the ball back. Let him be that, and then have these other players around him that can bring a little bit of quality, a little bit of guile. And I think if you have Mudryk, who looked a bit better this game, but was still
was good.
He had an all right game. There was still a lot of touches where it was like, oh god, that was rough.
You could definitely tell he was better after the goal. I think, you say, there was that before the goal. There was that moment he just ran the ball out of play and, like I say, a couple of dodgy touches. Once he got the goal, he just looked like a different player in the pitch. He was just full of confidence. Tail was up. Yeah, and then he goes and gets injured. So
the thing that made me laugh was he cut inside and took a shot from 20 yards on his right foot, and the commentator went, "Oh well, you can tell that's on his weaker foot." I went, "Oh, I thought he was right-footed." Shows the quality he's been putting in with his left recently, but he to be fair, took his goal really well. And like you say, looked a bit more confident. And I think a lot of players like that. And again, I'm going to reference back to a United player. Rashford's like that. When he gets a goal, his head lifts up. He looks a bit more confident. He gets his mojo back. He's taking people on and feeling it a bit more. But yeah, I want him to do well just for him, because he became that. He's just become a meme now at this point.
That's the thing. He's
got that massive transfer fee, an 8-year contract. He had the 007 thing that was horrific. I think that's awful. What Sky did with that.
Was it Sancho they did it with originally?
Yeah, they've done it with a few, but he's 007 in 7 games, no goals, no assists. It's this is a 20-year-old kid who's just come to the league, man. Do you want him to have a mental breakdown? Because this is how you do it.
Not to mention, not to bring, not to go there necessarily, but bear in mind where he's from and all the other stuff that's going on, in his personal life, most likely with that. It's pretty shitty, to be honest.
Tasteless at best.
Yeah, I think with any player, I thought it was out of order that Sky Germany did it with Sancho. I think having a news program sort of being look how shit this guy is. Whilst the next week being now come on guys, everyone leave Harry Maguire alone. It's a bit it's very, very hypocritical. Yeah. So
stop bullying Harry Maguire. I know he's just kicked the ball in his own goal, but what's he supposed to do? Be good at football? So
I'm not advocating for bullying of Harry Maguire, by the way. I just want to throw that
out there. I am. He gets a rough end of the stick as well. But I feel like it was a game that Chelsea really needed a win in, because they face Burnley next, which, let's be honest, they should be winning. The run of games after that is not something that you'd want to see in your schedule. So they face Arsenal, Brentford, Spurs, Man City, Newcastle, Brighton, and then Man United. That's all up to the start of December. There is a world where they don't get any points out of that run of fixtures. They'll probably get 3 at Old Trafford, but the way that we're going. But
depending on what Brighton turn up, I suppose. But
exactly, we've not actually touched on the Brighton game.
We spoke about this briefly. Actually, playing clubs the other. Was it club? We were playing clubs the other night. I think it was. Yeah. And I think Brighton came up, and you said about was it when teams figure Brighton out, they just batter them and they don't know what to do.
Yeah. Like just they find that like the Achilles heel, like they don't press them in their own box, which is what they want them to do, and they just mark the middle of the park. And that's what Villa did. They're just like, all right, your centre backs want it. All right, we'll just wait. And all right, well, we'll try and get into midfield anyway. And then Douglas Luiz was just straight into it. Ollie Watkins was fucking incredible that entire game. He just ran the game. I guess we kind of touched on it briefly when we were talking about Ollie Watkins before, right? But yeah, like Brighton will do that. Like they'll go on like 4 or 5 games where they're looking like the best team in the league, and they come up against a team that goes, I'm not going to let you play exactly how you want, and then they just crumble and concede loads.
We haven't prepared for this.
Yeah. Oh God. But Brighton will be back. But Brighton will probably be really good next week, and like they'll go on another run where they win a ridiculous amount of games. One thing that was mentioned on Match of the Day actually, whereas at the start they said they're looking to win 6 of the first 7 games for the first time since 2017. I think it was like. I forgot they had that season. I went back and looked at the table. Like, yeah, after 10 games, they were incredible.
Yeah.
I forgot that was the thing.
I completely forgot about that.
Was when they were like top of the league after 10 games. I think it was.
Yeah, no, that sounds about right. Yeah, God, yeah, Brighton been good for a while, haven't they? It's worrying. I do worry that maybe am I reacting to their sort of first game in the Europa League. Obviously, I lost 3-2 at home to AEK. I do wonder. It all depends on how far they go in that competition. If they're out in the group stages by New Year, then they'll be fine. But I do wonder if they've got the squad depth and not even just the squad depth, just the squad depth and the know-how and the experience, to sort of go far in that competition or not, and still have a good league season. Yeah,
well, I think they brought in like Milner to try and get a bit of European experience and a bit of nous and stuff like that. But I mean, when you lose your starting midfield. When you lose Casado and McAllister, and as good as Gross has been, and as good as Dahoud's been since he's come in, they're still new players, they're still not their first choice midfielders there. It's going to take a little bit of time to get used to. So, they'll still be up and around the top part of the table, I guess, at the end of the season.
Yeah,
maybe challenging for the Champions League is a bit too soon if they can get pulled apart like this, but. Hey, United lost 7-0 to Liverpool last year and finished third. So
this is true.
Any results can happen, and anything can happen in a weekend of Barclays.
Yeah, it does show you though that sort of trio, like everyone spoke about at the start of the season, that Villa, Newcastle, Brighton trio. If you look at obviously the sort of various of them playing each other since the start of the season, the sort of varying results. Whereas Newcastle battered Villa and then got battered by Brighton, but then Villa battered Brighton. It's just
it's great.
It's so good.
It's great. So I might just start supporting those 3 teams instead of my own.
Yeah, honestly, at this point, might not be the worst shout. So.
Well, we've I don't think we've actually got an awful pundit take for this week, have we? Nothing other than Troy Deeney reckoning he's better in the air than Harry Kane, which he might be, but there's many other facets to being a professional footballer, Troy, and there's a reason you're playing in League One or wherever it is.
Yeah, he's playing for the Vegans at Forest Green. So. Yeah. I will say it's not an awful pundit take. It just made me laugh when on the Sky coverage for the Liverpool Spurs game when they're reading out the feature OML statement, and you could just hear Gary Neville going, "Oh no, oh no, oh no." I was trying to read the statement and be like, oh my God, it's mental. I just found myself pissing myself because Gary Neville is so extra for that sort of stuff. It's great. There's certain things Gary Neville does that winds me up, but stuff like that, he is just good value. That is just funny. No.
They've not stopped digging. They're keeping going.
It's like he's on Gogglebox watching a soap. Do you know what I mean?
Oh God.
Very funny.
Yeah. Well, after another weekend of prime Barclays action, we have once again massively overrun on the 1 hour time frame. But to be fair, we had a lot to cover this week.
Shout out to Stockley Park.
Yeah. Shout out to Stockley Park. We've had the full 90 minutes and 3.5 minutes of injury time. So we'll wrap it up for there. If you are new to the channel, if you're any of the channels, wherever you're watching it or listening to us, please do give us a follow. Give us a thumbs up, 5-star, whatever you can do. Share it with your mates who you think might enjoy it. And we'll see you next time. this time next week, I guess, for more inevitable VAR nonsense. Cheers for tuning in, guys. Catch you next time. Bye.
Check complete.